My wife said. He was like a brother to me. I replied, your old phone said otherwise. Then I met with a divorce lawyer, froze our joint accounts, and packed a suitcase. And I just smiled, because she grieved her brother for over a year, but she has no idea I'm about to tell both our families that she was actually grieving her dead lover. Don't miss the twist. Subscribe and help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Original post, my wife, Linda, is 55 and I'm 50. We've been together for 13 years, and for most of that time, I would have described our marriage as happy. We were best friends, partners. But an event from 5 years ago planted a seed of doubt that has been growing in the back of my mind ever since. It started when Linda reconnected with an old friend from high school, a guy named Mark. Suddenly, he was all she talked about. They started texting constantly all day, every day. If he didn't text her back right away, her mood would plummet. She would spiral into this quiet, anxious funk until his name lit up her phone again. About a month into this renewed friendship, she started having him over for the weekend. He lived 3 hours away, so when he visited, he would stay in our spare bedroom. I'll admit, I was becoming suspicious. It felt like too much, too fast. But our relationship was still great. Our intimacy hadn't changed, and she gave me no other reason to believe something was wrong. I tried to ignore my gut feeling, but after a few of his weekend visits, I couldn't anymore. I saw the way her face would light up when he called, or when his car pulled into the driveway. It wasn't the way you look at a friend. It was different. This started setting off serious alarm bells, and I finally brought it up to her. I told her I was uncomfortable with the intensity of their relationship. She dismissed my concerns immediately. She seemed genuinely hurt that I would even think such a thing. She told me they were just friends, that he was like a brother to her, and that she didn't look at him like that. She was so convincing, and because I loved and trusted her, I let it go. A few months later, she called me at work. Her voice was excited. She told me she had offered to take Mark on a week-long road trip back to his hometown so he could see his dying father. He couldn't afford the trip on his own, and she had offered to cover everything. The problem was, she had offered this without ever discussing it with me. You can imagine how I reacted. It started another long, difficult discussion about their relationship. She apologized for not asking me first, but she'd already made the offer and he had accepted. It was happening. To try and make up for it, she insisted that I should come on the trip as well, so we could all bond and I could see for myself how platonic their friendship was. I was against the whole thing. It felt like I was being forced to chaperone my wife and her brother on a cross-country trip. But I also didn't want to be the bad guy, the jealous husband standing in the way of a man seeing his dying father. Reluctantly, I agreed to go. The trip was scheduled for a few months out. The tension in our house was thick, but we were moving forward. I just had to get through this one weird week. Update 1. The months leading up to the planned trip were strained. Linda was constantly on the phone with Mark, making arrangements, talking about his father, and planning their route. I felt like a third wheel in my own marriage. Every conversation felt like it revolved around him. I tried to be supportive, but the unease in my gut was a constant, low-grade hum. I confronted her again about 2 weeks before we were supposed to leave. I told her that the like a brother explanation wasn't matching up with what I was seeing. The constant touching, the long, lingering hugs when he would visit, the way they would finish each other's sentences. It all felt too intimate. She got defensive, then started to cry. She accused me of being paranoid and trying to ruin her oldest friendship. She said I was making her choose between her husband and her best friend, and it was tearing her apart. The conversation was a masterclass in gaslighting. She twisted my valid concerns into an attack on her character. I felt guilty. I apologized for doubting her, and we agreed to try and make the best of the upcoming trip. The confrontation ended with a tense, fragile peace. She seemed relieved that I had backed down. That night, I couldn't sleep. I went downstairs to get a glass of water. Linda had fallen asleep on the couch, her phone on the coffee table. A text message lit up the screen. It was from Mark. The preview was short, but it was enough to make my blood run cold. It said, "Counting the minutes until I have you all to myself. This is our week. I just stood there, staring at the phone. It was the proof I needed, the confirmation that my gut had been screaming at me for months. This wasn't a friendship. It was a countdown. I didn't take the phone. I didn't wake her up. I just went back to bed, the words burning in my mind. The next day, I was quiet, withdrawn. I was trying to figure out my next move, how to confront her with this undeniable proof. I decided I would wait until the weekend, sit her down, and show her the message. I never got the chance. That Friday, 2 weeks before the trip, Linda got a call. Mark had had a massive, unexpected heart attack. He had passed away that morning. I'm not going to lie. My first feeling was a wave of profound relief. The trip was off. The threat was gone. But my relief was quickly overshadowed by the reality of my wife's reaction. She didn't just cry. She collapsed. The grief that poured out of her was not the grief for a friend or a brother. It was the all-consuming, world-shattering grief of a woman who had just lost the love of her life. And I had to stand there and comfort her through it, all while knowing the truth. Update 2. Linda's grief was a long, dark winter in our marriage. She mourned Mark for over a year. She was devastated, a ghost in our home. I tried to be a supportive husband, to comfort the woman I loved through the loss of her best friend. But every moment of it felt like a lie. I was comforting my wife while she grieved for her lover. The irony was a bitter pill I had to swallow every single day. Our own relationship suffered immensely during that time, but eventually, slowly, the clouds parted. The intense grief subsided, and she started to come back to me. For the next 4 years, things were great. It was like the whole episode with Mark had never happened. We reconnected. Our marriage was stronger than ever. I buried my suspicions in the memory of that text message. The man was gone. The threat was gone. I chose to move on, to focus on the good life we had. Then, about a year ago, something brought it all rushing back. We were watching a movie where a character was dealing with a similar situation. A friendship. That was clearly more. I made a casual comment about how I had felt during that time with Mark. I expected her to acknowledge the difficulty of it now, with the distance of time. Instead, she got defensive. She reiterated, with a strange intensity, that she was never interested in him in that way. She said she wouldn't have been with him even if we weren't together. She repeated the old lie, the "like a brother" line, and it just didn't sit right with me. Her behavior back then, the raw intensity of her grief, had not matched her words. And the fact that she was still telling the same lie, 4 years after his death, lit a fire in me. I needed to know the definitive truth, not for the sake of our marriage now, but for the sake of my own sanity then. So, I went hunting. I knew there would be nothing on her current phone. Their communication had been constant, hundreds of texts a day, but her message history was clean. She had deleted everything. Then I remembered. Back in 2020 she had a different phone. We had upgraded our phones a few years ago, but we kept the old ones in a junk drawer in my office. I found it, the battery long dead. I plugged it in and waited, my heart pounding in my chest. When it finally powered up, I went straight to her text messages. And there it was. The entire, undeleted history of her affair. It wasn't just an emotional affair. It was a full-blown love story. She told him she was in love with him. She told him she wanted to be with him. They talked about a future together. The messages were filled with details of their physical interactions during his weekend visits, things that made my stomach turn. The lie wasn't just a small deception to protect my feelings. It was a monumental 5-year-long gaslighting campaign. I sat there in my office, the glow of the old phone illuminating my face, and I felt the past come crashing down on me. The gut punch was real. Everything I had suspected was true. My wife, the woman who was at that very moment humming happily in the kitchen, had been in love with another man, had been physically with him in my home, and had lied to my face about it for years. And the only reason it stopped was because he died. Update 3, I didn't confront her right away. For a full year, I sat on the information, a toxic secret simmering in my gut. Our life was good, peaceful. Things had been great for 4 years. What was the point of blowing it all up over an affair with a dead man? I tried to bury it. I tried to just deal with it. But I couldn't. The lie was a ghost that haunted our happy home. It was in every "I love you" every shared smile. Knowing that she was capable of such a profound, long-term deception had fundamentally broken my trust in the woman I slept next to every night. It was on my mind all the time. The final confrontation happened last month. It wasn't planned. We were having one of those rare, perfect evenings. We had made a nice dinner, opened a bottle of wine. We were sitting on the back porch, talking about our future, about retirement. She reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm so lucky to have you," she said, her eyes full of what looked like genuine love. "You're such a good, trusting man." And something inside me just snapped. The hypocrisy of that statement, after everything I knew, was too much to bear. I pulled my hand away. "Am I Linda?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "Am I a trusting man, or am I just a fool?" She looked at me confused. "What are you talking about?" I didn't want to have this fight, but I couldn't stop myself. "I'm talking about Mark," I said. "I'm talking about your brother." Her face hardened immediately. "I can't believe you're bringing this up again. After all these years. He's dead. Let it go." "I would," I said, my voice shaking with a year's worth of suppressed anger. "But you won't let me. Because you're still lying about it. You just sat here and told me what a trusting man I am, knowing that for years, you looked me in the eye and lied about being in love with another man." "That is not true," she insisted, her voice rising. "He was my friend." I stood up and went inside. I went to the junk drawer in my office and took out the old phone. It was still charged. I walked back out to the porch and placed it on the table in front of her. It was open to a text message she had sent to Mark, dated from 5 years ago. It read, "I can't do this anymore. I'm in love with you. I want to be with you. I just need to figure out how to leave him." She just stared at the phone, speechless. Her face, which had been flushed with righteous anger, turned a sickly, pale white. The lie was finally, utterly dead. "You didn't just have an affair, Linda," I said, my voice trembling. "You had a whole other life. You mourned your dead lover for a year, and you let me comfort you. You have been lying to my face for 5 years." I looked at the woman I had spent 13 years of my life with, and I felt nothing but a profound, soul-crushing emptiness. "I can't live with a ghost," I said, "and I can't live with a liar. I want you to leave." Final update: it has been a month since that night. Linda is gone. She packed her things and went to stay with her sister. I have filed for divorce. The process has been surprisingly quiet. When her lawyer contacted mine, there was no fight. She isn't contesting anything. The proof on that old phone was so absolute, so damning, that there was nothing for her to argue. Our friends and family are in shock. For years, they had all heard the "like a brother" story. They had all watched her grieve for her best friend. To them, I am the one who suddenly, inexplicably, ended a happy marriage. I have not told anyone the full truth. I don't feel the need to. The truth is for me. It is the rock I am rebuilding my life on. The relief I feel is immense. It's not happiness. Not yet. But it's a quiet, clean peace. The constant hum of suspicion that had been the background noise of my life for 5 years is finally gone. The ghost of Mark no longer haunts my home. I realized that the problem was never the affair itself. The man is dead. The physical threat has been gone for years. The problem was the lie. It was the gaslighting. It was the slow, corrosive poison of being made to feel crazy for trusting my own gut. She didn't just betray me with another man. She betrayed my reality. My revenge was not loud or angry. It was quiet and patient. It was the simple act of finding the truth and holding it until the perfect moment. The moment where she had to confront the chasm between the loyal wife she pretended to be and the deceitful woman she truly was. She has to live with that knowledge now alone. Last week, I took the old phone, the small, gray device that held 5 years of secrets, and I drove it to an electronics recycling center. I dropped it in the bin and watched it disappear. Its purpose was served. I am 50 years old. I have lost 13 years of my life to a lie. But I have the rest of my life to live in the truth. And for the first time in a very long time, that feels like a fair trade.